to Best Buy Theater, and I want to welcome all of you who are streaming online. I know we have a number of listeners on our University of Minnesota Duluth campus, which is up north, gentlemen, and our University of Minnesota Morris campus as well. So we're delighted to have you, and hopefully we'll be able to take your questions later on. So I want to welcome all of you to the opening event of this historic week of meaningful and productive connections between Morocco and Minnesota. These are connections that have survived time and politics, as well as those natural and man-made social, political, and environmental changes that can often alter, if not entirely rend, long-distance relationships. There is indeed something special about the ties that bind Minnesota to Morocco and Morocco to Minnesota. Ties that must be preserved and strengthened in order that they continue to positively affect our communities for generations and for decades to come. This event, Morocco and Minnesota Connections, will take place over the next 3 days and includes a number of events and activities to build upon the historic relationship between the University of Minnesota and Morocco that began in the 1960s. The collaboration, as many of you know, began with exchanges of students, educators, and researchers in agriculture and veterinary medicine that remains to this day one of the most successful partnerships ever funded by the United States Agency for International Development. Over the past nearly 50 years, this relationship has continued to expand and grow. And while sustainable agriculture continues to be an important aspect of our joint efforts, we also now work together on projects in the areas of leadership, community development and tourism, Arabic language learning, and business. The history of this relationship and the total number of people whose lives have been impacted by and through the Morocco and Minnesota connections is even yet not fully known. Even putting this week together, over the past many months, new stories have emerged about Morocco-Minnesota ties that have surprised those of us who thought we had heard it all. Together, all of those involved in Minnesota and all of those involved in Morocco, we have already accomplished great things, and there are more yet to come. But to help us understand the challenges and opportunities ahead in Morocco, this morning we are fortunate to have 4 Moroccan leaders to share their insight and perhaps their predictions or recommendations about where the next 50 years of this relationship might lead us. But before I introduce our distinguished panelists, allow me to thank the University of Minnesota Extension, and in particular its Dean, Bev Durgan, as well as John Bryans, its Director of Global Initiatives, for the care and thoughtfulness, not to mention the attention to detail required to put this event together. John, of course, was fortunate to have a terrific team of people on the planning committee, and I'm just going to quickly read their names because they all did a lot of work. The very active and honorary co-chairs, Ambassador Sam Kaplan and his wife Sylvia. We had Olaf Kulke from the University of Minnesota Duluth, Sarah Buchanan, University of Minnesota Morris, Scott Wells, Professor of Veterinary Population Medicine and Director of the Center for Animal Health and Food Safety, Dave Mulla from the College of Food, Agricultural, and Natural Resource Sciences, Katrin Van P. from she's the director of the Arabic Language Program, Molly Ports from the Global Programs and Strategy Alliance, Heidi Sonneson from the Learning Abroad Center, Jennifer Hawkins from the Carlson School of Management Global Institute, and Jim Ron from the Humphrey School of Public Affairs. So without their help, this 3-day extravaganza couldn't have been put together. So I am looking forward, as I hope you all are, to the many associated events that are planned in the next few days to celebrate and reflect on a friendship that has indeed stood the test of time. So let's hear from our distinguished panelists, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience here and online. Our first panelist is the Honorable Rashad Boulal, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Morocco to the United States, who will speak about embassy priorities for partnerships, as well as current events in Morocco, which likely informs those priorities. Ambassador Boulal was appointed to his position currently by King Mohammed VI in 2011, having previously served as ambassador to Germany and to the European Union, Belgium, and Luxembourg. Ambassador Boulal also held the position of Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Trade and Investments, Director of Fisheries in the Ministry of Fisheries and Merchant Marine, and Deputy Director of the Trade Division in the Ministry of Finance. Ambassador Boulal has received a number of awards from his own government, and as well from the governments of Belgium, Germany, and France. He's a pilot and president of the Rabat Royal Air Club, and he's president and founding member of the Wildlife Film Festival of Rabat. Ambassador Bilal, it is a pity that you are only able to be in Minnesota very briefly, as we have loads of wildlife to show you, as well as more than 10,000 lakes in which you could go fishing. But we are delighted to have you in any event for as long as we can. Please join me in welcoming Ambassador Bilal.
Okay, thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here. And let me thank you for the way you welcome the delegation of the wonderful program you have been setting up for us. It's really great. And I welcome also my fellow citizens who came from Morocco. It's a little bit jet-lagged still, so you will excuse them for their presentations. But thank you for everything. And I came here I wanted to show you the importance we are giving to the partnership with universities. When I arrived here, I did the same thing I did when I first came to Germany, is that I wrote to all Moroccan universities asking them, what are your programs with the universities in the United States? So I received from them, and then I started to connect to all the universities that are working with the Kingdom of Morocco. Usually universities work a lot together, but they just do not inform us. I'm not blaming them for that. That's their job. They are doing their business. They don't need us. But so we are not always aware of the tremendous program they are implementing together. So I think that University of Minnesota is a pioneer in this. And it started in the 60s, and so many now of your alumni are in Morocco, and according to your statistics, maybe 400. This is a tremendous number of people who know Minnesota, who are still connected to Minnesota, and who can work a lot together to connect Morocco and Minnesota. And this is one of the purposes of my visit. With the United States, I tried to do a lot for our bilateral relations, and we have been able to upgrade our relations to what is called the strategic partnership. This strategic partnership is based on several pillars. And when I was talking to this about this to the State Department, and I said, you know, we have to work on 4 working groups. One, political issues that they understood quickly. Security, that was understood quickly. Economy, no discussion. And I said, education and culture and interfaith dialogue. And they told me, why do we need a working group? There is not anything we might put in this working group. I said, I think you are mistaken, because what is being done and the potential that exists between universities is great. And then they were surprised when we started to collect all the information and to talk about all the programs we are conducting together. As I said, University of Minnesota was the pioneer and doing great and still doing great. We have to go back to the level we had a few years ago, and I think this wonderful team that came from Morocco will be key in helping your team who has been working on our programs for such a long time. I'm sure that the State Department, MCC, USAID, and other organizations will be pleased to see what we are doing and maybe to fund some of our programs. And when I say funding of programs, I do not mean that the money should be only coming from the United States. We will be putting our part of the money for the programs. And these programs will be beneficial for both of us. We will learn from you as we did for so many years, but you will maybe learning from us. And Let me recall that the first university that was built in the world was in Fez, and in the 9th century by a woman. Fatima Fihriya built the Al-Qarawiyyin University, which still exists, and so many of the students go and visit this university in Fez. So the strategic dialogue was we have been able with this to, as I said, upgrade our partnership and really pave the way for a strong and future cooperation and programs. Last week I was in Mississippi. I visited Mississippi State University last January, met with the president, with the faculty, and I was back last Thursday and Friday. In the meantime, MOU has been signed with the International University of Rabat. I appointed the president of the university as honorary consul of Morocco. I met with 21 students who arrived last 1 month ago, and they will be graduated in aerospace engineering. And we are planning to have up to 200 students next summer in the Mississippi State University. These two universities are for us big partners because they, you are number one, maybe Mississippi is number two or number three in dealing with agriculture. And this is key for Morocco. Agriculture, as I said in the previous meeting, we have been able in Morocco to feed our population. And when you feed your population, part of the problems are behind. 33 million, we are self-sufficient in everything, and we export. And thanks to you, thanks to the cooperation, thanks to the INRA, thanks to the INAV, you have been noticing yourself how we have been doing in Morocco and how we have been improving our agriculture and our productivity. And we can do more. I mentioned Africa. Africa is the future for all of us. If we want to feed the growing population in the world, we need to invest and to use African soil. Most of the arable land is in Africa. And these African countries need our help, need our support, need our technology, need our universities. And I mentioned previously what we can do together. And I think there is a big future for the University of Minnesota and for Morocco and universities and the administration in Morocco. We are very well implemented in Africa in almost everything, and agriculture is one of the key issues. So this is what we have been working on. This is what we would like to do together. I will not speak longer, but you will have other presentations. But I will be happy to answer any of your questions. And once again, thank you for the way you have been welcoming us here.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Our second presentation this morning will be on reforms in higher education in the Kingdom of Morocco. Dr. Abdelaziz Bendo is well positioned to discuss these reforms, given his long history with higher education in his country. Dr. Bendo is currently the director of the National School of Business and Management at the University Ibn Zor in Agadir. He has previously served as the Deputy Director of the Engineering School in Agadir and at the Higher School of Technology. He has a PhD in both energetics as well as physics and has served as chair for several national and international conferences and congresses in the world. Dr. Bendo, we are looking forward to your perspective on higher education reforms in Morocco.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Abdelaziz Bendo. I'm the director of Business School of University of Ibn Zor, and I'm very happy to be with you with the Moroccan persons in this delegation, and also with Professor John, the dean, and all the staff of Minnesota University. We have an agreement with this university. We work together in tourism field, but also in business. We can do a lot of good part with students and with staff. I will talk about reform of Moroccan higher education system quickly because I have 7 minutes. With the elements of higher education sector, we have three sectors. We have public sector with universities and affiliated institutions. We have also institutions under other ministries. We have a new sector, public partnership, universities and institutions, non-lucrative foundation like University Mohammed VI. We have private sector. The system in figures, this year we expected a number of students about 800,000 in 400 institutions. Private sector have 50,000 students. Women represent 49%. We have also 13 public universities, 60 institutions under other ministries, one public university with private management, Al Akhawain University. We have also 5 universities in public partnership and 5 private universities. The orientation training deal with economic, socio-economic sectors need and a major structure project, as the ambassador, Excellence Ambassador has said. We have a National Initiative for Human Development, a great program in Morocco for human development. We have also a National Pact for Industrial Emergence, Green Morocco Plan, Tourism Vision 2020, Alitis Plan, Digital Moroccan Plan, Energy Plan, and Logistics and Transport. All the sectors need good competence and good skills. A series of reforms and action plans to improve the system. In 2000 and 2009, we have the great reform of higher education to reform the old system in a new vision with LMD. Licence, master degree, and also a doctorate. In 2009, 2012, we have a great program, emergency program, and contractualization state university. The first step with contractualization, a lot of money is given to the universities in Morocco, but with contractualization. A lot of objective, a lot of good work for students have been done in this emergency program. And 2013 and 2016, there is a ministry action plan. The Ministry of Higher Education. Alors, we have in this action program of the ministry, we have 5 fields. First field is offer of higher education. The second, scientific research. Third, sector governance, social benefits to students, and laws and regulations. The first one is about dealing with the massification of higher education. In few years, in 5 years, we have the number of students is multiplied by 2. So our ministry have done some creation, some extension of all the universities in Morocco, with also a lot of creation of post professor for accompanying this massification. There's also the improving the employability of graduates according with the socio-economic sectors. Also developing the quality of higher education, accreditation of formation, and also institutional evaluation. First time, because university in Morocco, the first time before we haven't evaluation. Now it's systematical. The research field, we have updating the national research strategy, new strategy for research, consolidation of the funding of scientific research, optimizing the structure of research, promotion and development of scientific research. Also, consolidation of the enterprise and university enterprises. All the universities in Morocco must have a good interface with the enterprises. For the governance, we have planning needs and improving human research management. The ministry is working about a global information system and promoting new technologies. Organization and structuring of the sector, diversification of funding search as a sector, consolidate university autonomy, and improve governance of the various components of the system. For the field of social benefit to students, revising the system of scholarship granted to students, and also improve the governance of students' accommodations. Improve the standard of accommodation and catering of students and ensure their specific health coverage. This year, all the students in our Moroccan universities will be covered by a health accommodation. Also, about laws and regulation, there is a framework for revising law number 0100 on the organization of higher education in progress. There's a forum, but in this year, our ministry try to revise this law. Finalize also the regulatory documents required for the upgrade and development of the sector, after creating the National Evaluation Agency and Quality Assurance Organization of Private Universities decree. It's very important for the development of education, higher education in Morocco. Last slide about international visibility. The system, the Bologna process, Moroccan now is LMD, in the LMD system. It's very easy to do some training for our students in Europe and also in other countries. Also, we have our ministry have done the fusion of two big universities, University Ain Chouk Casablanca and University Mohammedia on one university, and also the fusion of two universities of Rabat, Agdal, and Rabat Suissi. We have now University Hassan II in Casablanca, only one, but with a lot of students, with about 100,000 students, and also one university, public university in Rabat. More than 15,400 students in higher education institution. A lot of a great part is from Africa, because Morocco now, I said, the ambassador is a hub for Africa. Thank you for attention.
Thank you, Dr. Bendo. Our third presentation is another look at higher education from a slightly different perspective, and that perspective will be provided by Dr. Jawad Bahaji. He is the Director of Research in the Ministry of Agriculture, and in his prior career, he served for many years in the U.S. Embassy in Rabat on the Agricultural Development Program, and in that way got to know the University of Minnesota very well. Dr. Bahaji is working closely with Extension currently on the development of technical education and workforce development, topics, both topics of interest here and in Morocco. Please welcome Dr. Bahaji.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to make a presentation about. First, it will be complementary to what my colleague just presented about the national higher education system. Then I will introduce our agriculture research and training system. Then recently, the Ministry of Agriculture has been undergoing a major reform of its research, higher education, and vocational training systems. So I will briefly give you a general picture about where we stand and what are the objectives and expectations. Then I will end up my presentation just talking about challenges, but also expectations, why we are here, as Mr. Ambassador mentioned, and what are the potential opportunities for partnership to strengthen what we have been doing and what we need to do to achieve our bilateral partnership and friendship. So, okay. Is this working? Okay, just do it like that. Okay, I will just use the, okay. So the first part will be just complementary to what my colleague just presented about higher education system in Morocco, of which the agricultural higher education system is a component and makes part. So like any country, it's composed of private and public sector. So we have many universities, we have higher education institutions like the ones we have at the Ministry of Agriculture, which are 3. There is the Yavia Hassan II, and we have also forestry higher education institution in Saleh near Rabat, but we also have ENA de Meknes, which is one of the oldest universities in Morocco. Obviously, we have also private sector institutions all over Morocco, which is actually we are having more and more private sector interested mainly in higher education. Just a few figures about Morocco. I'm pretty sure that everyone in this room knows Morocco. And as Mr. Ambassador mentioned this morning, we are about 34 million. Overall number of students in all universities, which are scattered all over Morocco, is about 680,000. There is a predominance of the public sector, but recently there has been a lot of investment in the private sector. And the university graduates every year, so we have about 70,000 graduates from all over the universities. As you can notice, Morocco now, within the democratic process and reforms that we are undergoing, we have about 12 regions instead of 16. So the Ministry of Agriculture is one of the departments actually which has been adapted to that. And there are a few examples which I will tell you just to follow the dynamics that's going in the different regions in Morocco. Morocco higher education system, I think my colleague already talked about public institutions. We have public university with private management like the University of Al Akhawain. And we have private universities completely, and we have private sector institutions, but also public sector institutions like the ones we have at the Ministry of Agriculture. I think it's very important to mention that the accreditation process has been one of the major areas where we have been making a lot of improvements, not only at the public sector, but also at the private sector. So we have more than 2,200 accredited programs so far, and private sector, it's more than 320. And the number is increasing because higher education is we're getting more and more public-private partnership with the private sector to make sure that what's being taught at the university responds to the needs of the private sector. Again, other figures just, to reflect the dynamic of the evolution of the accredited programs, which is really increasing more and more. The higher education system in general actually fits into the dynamic of the economic sector in Morocco, and we have various strategic plans, as was mentioned this morning by Mr. Ambassador. So we have strategic vision of tourism, we have fisheries plan, and so on and so forth. And obviously there is also the Green Morocco plan, as one of the major strategic plans that are being implemented across the country. Research, obviously, there are a lot of research activities, and national research activities actually fit into all those domains that you can see in front of you: aeronautics, energy, materials and nanomaterials, human resources and social sciences, and so on and so forth. And each one actually is being implemented by the different departments and by the different institutions of training research. Quality of training has been one of the major challenges actually that we have been facing for the last 15 and 12 years, and it has been a major concern of the different departments. And there has been, for example, the introduction and the strengthening first of the accreditation program, and also there has been more and more evaluations done to make sure that we are really responding to the needs of the private sector. Recently, there has been the creation of a national evaluation agency, and whose main goal has been to evaluate what's being taught at the universities and to make sure that it fits with the dynamic of the economy across the country and across the different sectors and strategic plans. Well, at the international cooperation, I think it's very important to mention that Morocco is among the few countries in North Africa and in Africa and the Middle East, actually, which is in the MENA region, which have been attracting more and more African students. And there is more than 50,000 African students, with about 4,000 new ones each year. More than 8,000, 50% have Moroccan government scholarships, and the number actually is increasing. And about 50% pursue their graduate studies across the countries at the universities of higher education institutions. And 40% of them actually, they pursue their studies in the fields of medicine, pharmacy, and so on and so forth. I would like to add also that within the South-South cooperation, Morocco has been introducing a new mechanism, which is the trust fund with the FAO, and the Ministry of Agriculture signed a bilateral agreement with FAO, and whose main objective actually is to implement training and technical assistance programs with African countries which express their needs for either training or technical assistance. So far, we have signed 4 triangular agreements, one with Mali, the second with the Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and with Swaziland, which is an Anglo-Saxon country, actually. And there are 2 or 3 other countries on the pipe. There is Chad, there is Cameroon, who expressed actually their needs to benefit from this partnership, and there is Madagascar. Well, challenges, there are many challenges, of course. I mean, we have to face the increasing number of demands. Autonomy of universities and higher education in general has been a major challenge. Labor market is to respond to the need of the requirement of the market. Innovation, well, evaluation now, today, we have tools to evaluate what we are doing at the university and higher education institutions. And the communication, I think that's also another tool that we are putting in place to make sure that everyone knows what we are doing. And international cooperation would be another tool to enhance what we are doing and to get people to know what are the offers of public but also private education. Quickly, I will go to the Ministry of Agriculture higher education system. I think, as you know, I mean, our strategic framework is the Green Morocco Plan. Mr. Sadiqi, Professor Sadiqi, our Secretary General, will provide a thorough presentation about the Green Morocco Plan. But I just would like to say that everything that's being done actually it fits and responds to the needs of this strategic plan and beyond actually. And within the field of training and research, the idea is. The main vision has been to respond to the needs of professional private sector through partnerships, strategic partnership with professional associations. I mean, quickly, that's actually, if you like, that's the, this schemata actually summarizes the two fields of our higher education systems and research. Well, higher education is, I mean, the main objective, of course, it's long-term training, it's short-term and capacity building training, but it's also to provide knowledge, know-how, and best practices to farmers through extension projects that are being implemented through the university, but also through the higher education institutions. For example, we have this program with the University of Minnesota and ENADOM CNAS on farmer-to-farmer project, which we believe is one of the good projects that we intend actually to replicate in other areas, but in terms of content, but mainly in terms of approach. Where research, we have obviously the focus of the research. I just would like to mention that we have with us Mr. Badrawi, who is the General Director of the National Institute of Research. And on research, we have the focus is mainly on value chain research, which is the approach of the Green Morocco Plan. Cross-cutting domains like water resource management and so on and so forth, and agroecosystems to respond to the challenges of global climate change. I mean, in terms of approach, so there are four types of actions that we are doing: basic approach, adaptive approach, technology transfer, and demonstration with professional associations and with private sector. And all that is being done on a regional approach, but also on a participatory approach with the private sector. Higher education in agriculture, so as you know, so we have all the system of higher education and research. So we have 3 higher education institutions. First one is IAV Hassan II, that you know, ENADOM CNAS, and INFI, which is forestry school. And the part of the system, we have INRA, and INRA is the only institution in Morocco which is mandated to do agricultural research. But there is also research done at higher education, agricultural education system in complementary manner. Besides, and the part of the system too, we have vocational training schools. So we have about 53 vocational training schools scattered all over the country, and actually which work in complementarity with higher education system and with extension. Well, as you can see, this is the map of Morocco, and you can see the location of all the institutions. So you have INFI and IAV Hassan II in Rabat. We have ENADOM CNAS in Meknes, and you have also a campus of INFI in Ifran, which is in the Middle Atlas, and you have IAV, a complex in Agadir in the south. And obviously INRA is in Rabat and is scattered all over the country. In terms of the approach, so the approach of higher education system is an integrated approach. So we have development, we do research and innovation, and obviously education and training, which is the main mandate of the agricultural higher education institutions. Where these institutions, through time, I mean, they have been playing a key role in ensuring the training of most of the workforce, which has actually managed to develop and to enhance the quality of the agricultural development so far. Those institutions have contributed on a lot of research programs and on providing and producing knowledge that has been shared with farmers and with the farmers community and with professional associations all over the country. And obviously, I mean, the strategic objectives of the higher education institutions, the main concern is quality of training, create and reinforce multidisciplinary research teams and research, enhance participation in collaborative research and multi-institutional programs, and keep appropriate research and training program going and developed. At the cooperation and partnership and networking level, there are a lot of opportunities. As you know, Morocco is in the Mediterranean environment, so it's a very strategic position of the country. And it has important involvement in Africa, as I mentioned. So we have this new tool, which is the trust fund that we have put in place and which is ongoing, actually. And we are widely open on the world. So we have a lot of partnership all over the world. There are strong partnerships that we are implementing through international networks. We have a lot of collaborative research and regional alliances. Those actually are the disciplines that are being taught at the agricultural higher education schools. So agronomy and natural resource management, veterinary medicine, topography and geomatics engineering, food technology, rural engineering, horticulture, and forestry. As I said, Morocco has been almost everywhere, and we are actually developing our strategic alliances across the country, across the continent. And as you can see, those are the places where we are located and where we have partners and where we intend to strengthen our partnership with African countries. There is also, I think, it's very important to mention that one of the major reforms actually that has been undertaken is the creation of Center for Doctoral Studies for many, many years ago in agriculture, and that's the only center, and which actually has been able to federate all researchers and scientists and to alleviate research programs and federate all the scientific community into one center. And actually it's located at Yavi Hassan II. And it's actually a nucleus actually that was created, but it's going to be one of the platforms for the creation of the National Polytechnic that I will talk about, which is one of the major reforms of the national system for research training and vocational training. Yes, accreditation is a very important tool actually that we have put in place many, many years ago. Well, obviously the duration of 4 years is possibility of setting up new programs and curricula oriented towards more professional skills, and so that it responds to the needs of the sector and of the labor market. There are more opportunities, options, and offers, and it's a tool for strengthening partnership and interaction with the private sector. Research, so across the board, across the institutions, and mainly INRA, I mean the research strategy has been based on decentralized research, projects and actions performed nationally in various regions, strong partnership with private sector, strategic linkages with scientific and development institutions, and performance. The orientation obviously has been towards responding to the needs of the sector, of arising value chains and links of value chains to make sure that it evolves and it responds to the needs of a sector that is more and more looking for competitiveness nationally or internationally. Well, INRA, as I said, it's the institution of it's National Institution for Research. So Mr. Bedrawi will be making a presentation, I think, tomorrow about INRA, about research. And just briefly, it's present all over Morocco, even in the south of the country. And one of the approaches that have been strengthened, one is participatory approach with the private sector, is the presence in all over the regions, and the valorization of the results of research. So anyway, Mr. Bedrawi will be presenting more details about the midterm strategic plan that is being implemented by INRA. Okay, the third part is the reform. So since 2 years ago, actually, we started, the Ministry of Agriculture started a major reform. I'm going to give the general picture of the main and the general decisions that have been taken in this regard. The first one, as I said, there are 3 higher education agricultural schools. And just to follow up the dynamic occurring worldwide, I mean, the idea is to federate, is to fuse the 3 higher education schools into one national pole. And the objective is, one, to develop one scientific and pedagogical program, better use of existing means, especially that the government is providing less and less means to public institutions. So it's very important that we federate, that we fuse our institutions. Training program complementarities across the different institutions. And also it will be an opportunity to put in place a tool and a space for integrated research and collaborative research among the teams of the pole that will be created, and within which will be disciplinary schools, veterinary school, agronomic school, etc. And the law has been drafted. It's in the process. It's in the validation. It's in the clearance process. And it's one of the major reforms for 2015 and 2016. Just two clauses actually into the law that I would like to highlight. The first one is we are looking towards the autonomy in management, which will ensure quality in training and the partnership with the private sector. Second, it's the fusion of three higher education. So, I mean, the intent is not to have separate schools, but to have one entity, national entity, with a lot of synergy, scientific, pedagogical, financial synergy across the schools. On research, there has been four major recommendations. The first one is the creation of a Council for Strategic Orientation of Research. And that's a strategic council which will be presided by the minister, but the private sector will be represented, and universities will be represented. So all the appropriate partners will be there, I mean, to help orient strategic research, agricultural research in Morocco, and then provide an action plan for research. And partially which will be funded through a mechanism, competitive mechanism. It's a funding mechanism that has been developed in partnership with the World Bank in 2011, and which has been working. But under this reform, it's an opportunity to make it more operational, to strengthen it further, and it has been developed for two main reasons. One is to introduce more and more the private sector, and second is to make sure that results of research are marketed somehow. So there are two types. There is social marketing, but there is also commercial marketing. So that's the third aspect. And obviously, I mean, the tools for the implementation of research will be through mixed units of research, which exists actually, but this reform will be an opportunity to highlight and to make more visibility for these research units, which will be composed of the Pôle Polytechnique, the three agriculture higher education system, INRA, universities, but also the private sector. But also international partners could make part of those mixed units of research. Yeah, briefly, another component of the national system for research, higher education and training is the vocational training. So as you can see in the map, those are the location of the vocational training schools all over the country. So we have about 53 schools. They are specialized in all value chains, and we produce about more than 14,000 graduates every year. Specialized technician, and qualified worker. So, and actually this year we put in place a new, what we call cartographie de formation, cartography of training, and the idea has been, one, to revise and look back at what we have been doing for many years, and second is to fit into the dynamic of the Green Morocco Plan and to really focus on those skills that are needed by an evolving and a dynamic sector. Like the higher education system, I mean, the objective one is to federate more and more, I mean, governments, and providing less resources to public institutions. And the idea is to federate schools into regional poles and make sure that means are federated, they are better used, and that taxpayers' money is better used by by those public institutions. And second, respond to the needs of the sector, I mean, Green Morocco Plan and the private sector. Human resources, challenges, and mobility. We have more and more issues with teachers, with trainers, and the government cannot provide the number cannot provide more teachers. So we have to innovate, and one of the innovation is mobility within regions, but also across regions, by having teachers actually teaching not just in their schools, but they can do it in the schools within the region, but also across the regions. And autonomy and partnership, it's also another challenge. So let me just quickly summarize some of the opportunities and challenges that we have been facing and that we are actually working on or responding to. Is farmers need to respond to future consumers' preferences and behavior. By responding to farmers, obviously, we are also responding to a consumer who is changing his behavior. Second is competitiveness. Third is to reconcile production with global climate change and make sure what's being done now today is going to take into account future generations, and mainly, for example, on natural resource management. Also, another challenge actually that we have been working on is offer of expertise and services. Mr. Secretary General will talk during his presentation about the Green Morocco Plan, about some of the strategic activities actually and programs and projects that we are putting in place, such as Zagropol and Les Agrotech. And for that, you need a workforce, a skilled workforce, a qualified workforce. Well, INRA, obviously, INRA has been working across the country just to make sure that there is a proximity to farmers, and that the research programs that are being implemented fit into the needs of farmers and the need of consumers. And there have been more and more centers which have been renovated, modernized, and others that have been created, like some in South provinces, for example, in the animal value chain. And of course, I mean, the role, future role and contribution internationally of the system, of the whole system, higher education, research, and vocational training. Well, finally, I think we are here. We are very happy and very excited to be here. We have lots of expectations to make sure that we will enhance and strengthen the U.S.-Morocco friendship and renew our long-standing and historical collaboration, I think, especially in the agricultural sector. I think the agricultural sector has been pioneer in the partnership between the U.S. and Morocco. Develop bilateral agreement which could fit into what we are already doing in Africa. And we have the trust fund, for example. So whatever will be done on a bilateral agreement, I think it's going to help Africa as well. And third is the partnership will help us face the challenges and opportunities in Morocco and the dynamic and the impact that has been introduced and that has been created by the Green Morocco Plan since 2008. I think I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhaji. Well, our final presentation will be on agricultural priorities and reforms, including rural development and rural tourism. This topic will be addressed by an alumnus and a dear friend to the University of Minnesota, Dr. Mohammed Siddiqui. I had my notes indicated I was going to say an old and dear friend, but he's a long-standing friend. He's certainly not an old person. Dr. Siddiqui is the Secretary General of the Moroccan Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries and has served in this position since 2012. He has also served as the Director General of the Institute of Agronomy and Veterinary Medicine, Hassan II, since 2009. He earned his PhD in agronomy from the University of Minnesota and has gone on to make us very proud throughout his distinguished career. Prior to being named the Director General of IAV, he was the Director of Scientific Research and Doctoral Education there. He serves as an expert in both the International Institute for Plant Genetic Resources in Rome and the French National Agency for Research in Paris. Please give a warm welcome to one of our own, Dr. Mohammed Siddiqui.
Thank you very much, Dr. McQuaid. I'm very, very pleased to be here today, and I would like to really thank warmly both the international program of the university and the extension program for putting together this 3 days program, which is very important to us. And I would like to thank His Excellency, our ambassador, to be here, and his presence with us is a really big signal to what we would like, to see this partnership going in the future. Well, you heard about the reform and about the description from my two previous colleagues in the higher education, and Mr. Bahaji talked about the agricultural sector. I would say what I'm going to present, which is the Morocco agricultural policy and strategy, is just one of the examples of the sectors, where the economy of Morocco is really going through big dynamics. So it is just one of the approaches and the examples. So this strategy is called Green Morocco Plan. And let me go back and just recall. Does it work with the arrow? Ah. I'm just going. Yes, doesn't go. Maybe down.
It froze.
Yes. Froze. Yes. Well, it went. Yes, so I will just go through this, try to summarize, what's going on in this strategy, where we need a lot of capacity, human capacity, in terms of a technician, in terms of administrator and leaders, managers, scientists. And I would say that the long-lasting Minnesota project that Dr. McQuaid, just mentioned, produced around 400, graduates, and all of them are active in the agricultural sector now. And what you are seeing as reform, they have been actively, involved in that. So let me just recall that in the world went through a food crisis in 2008, and this was an opportunity for the world to reposition agriculture in the heart of the political agendas at the international, national, regional, and also local level. So this was clearly stated in 2008 World Summit organized by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, in Rome. And in 2008, for Morocco, this positioning has put agriculture as a major driving force for its economy. Let me give just some statistics and some figures about Moroccan agriculture at that time, at 2008. First of all, the Moroccan population living in the rural area represent 40%. And the unique income, a source of income for this population is agriculture in 25% of the cases. The sector is the first employer sector in Morocco. 45% of national employment is in agriculture and associated sectors. It represents about 20% of the national GDP and 15% of the Moroccan exports. In terms of socially, it's also a very important sector. It plays an important role in terms of stabilizing the rural area and the fighting for poverty, because 75% of the poor people in Morocco live in the rural area. And in general, it's a sector very important within our national food system, and to really thank and stabilize our national food security. One figure statistic is about the added value coming from agriculture and what the production, the kind of production and the kind of production sectors. 45% of the added value, and most of it from export, is concentrated only on 25% productive area. As you see here, this comes from the high value added fruit and vegetables. And arable land dominated by cereals, 75%, generate only up to 25% of the GDP. Animal farming has a massive social impact, as it generates with cereal 65% to 70% of the jobs. The value-added crops, like citrus, olives, fruit, generate the total of the export of the Morocco export. Another indicator is this problem of fragmentation of the production area. We have a lot of small farms. 71% of the farms use only 25% of the arable area, with an average size of 2.1 hectares, which is around 4 acres. So this is one of the problems. Let's just to go quickly through some of the, to say that at that time in 2008, Moroccan agriculture was at crossroad with a really chronic growth deficit. We had on one side important opportunities like domestic demand, which was rising. Global demand for Mediterranean goods increases, particularly for local products. Competitive advantages on some products, some Moroccan products, and the free trade agreements that were signed with different countries, including the trade agreement with the United States. So those are opportunities. And on the other side, we had a lot of challenges. Many small, as I said, small and fragile farms, land issues in terms of status, who owns the land, problems. This is handicapped. I mean, it's a handicap for the land use. Water policy was not enough sufficient. It was overused or exploitation of water and non-efficient usage. Legal frame and policies, there was deficiency for that, which did not attract enough investors to the sector and make it attractive economic domain. And then also we had to solve this issue that we had an agriculture with two speeds, small and large. And we had to finish with this way of looking at the sector. On one hand, we had the family farming, and on the other hand, we had the more efficient farmers with high added value crops. So the answer to these problems and challenges and this situation was to put together and to put the strategy that would solve these problems, the Green Morocco plan that takes into account all the strategies and the experience from the past, and to look at the future and look at the real situation to solve these problems. So this, the idea was to really try to modernize the sector and to produce the changes that are needed in order to make it an attractive for the investors, an attractive sector for the investors. So the strategy was then built on two pillars. Pillars with really what we call block of structural reforms. Structural reforms that I will go through very quickly. The first pillar was, first of all, I would say the agriculture was seen, in the developing of this strategy as a major engine of the economic and social development. So there was a high political will from the head of the state, from His Majesty the King. So the pillar one targeted the development of modern agriculture with industrial investment, with high value added productivity oriented towards export mainly. The second pillar targeting really the poor and the family and the small farmer with a view of a solidarity-based upgrading of the farms. So the objective is really social investment, and with massive intervention, public intervention, and fighting and alleviating poverty in the rural area. In the heart of this equation, we had the investment, public-private partnership to mobilize the investment. The public investment is seen as stimulus to mobilize the private, incentives to mobilize the private investment. But the objective was to mobilize the private and to have new investors in the sector. So for the Pillar 1, the figure was that 30%, up to 30%, from 20 to 30% of the financing would come from the public, and 80% to 70% from, for the Pillar 2, 70% would come, 70 to 80% would come from the public, and 20 to 30% from the private, because these are small farmers, and the state and the public needs to have large intervention. For Pillar 1, it was exactly the opposite. You know, the 30%, the 20% to 30% that comes from the public, it was just a stimulus, it was just an incitation for the private to invest and to have newcomers in the sector. The reforms that we went through in terms of policies, in terms of changing laws, in terms of updating the frameworks, they had to do with land availability, with water, with the international market, with the national market, doing business conditions, interprofessional relations. That means the organization of the producers and of the private sector, and also the governance of the sector as a whole. So let's go back to the Pillar 1, which, as I said, was for targeting the modernization of the productive farms around integrated project, and they were seen as an engine to really pull the whole agriculture towards more added value. So this idea, this objective was translated on the ground in projects, in concrete, clear project-packed project that would be easily financed. And we had, as you see here, different categories of project targeting different kind of productions like cereals, animal subsectors, crops with strong added values like vegetables and fruit trees. And these numbers that you have here, they are the project number of projects with the land that is targeted. But so as the trigger or the instrument of the intervention was the investment. So to stimulate the investment to increase quality and productivity, which would increase the value added in the sector, in the value chains, and then we have a virtual circle here. For the Pillar 2, it's really targeting, complementary to Pillar 1, and targeting small farms, as I said, and with trying to increase the income of these family farmers in order to alleviate poverty, in order to help them get to the market, in order to empower them through different processes of organization and linking to the large farms through a process that I will talk about, which is the aggregation, in order to allow them to access to the market. So here also the rationale was to develop packed and marketable project that will target different regions according to their production potential, and we had three categories of project. The first category is diversification of project. That means all the products that were there, we had to see how we can value them better and how can we produce them better and to add value and increase the income of the farm. Second category is the reconversion projects. These are a project where in areas where we wanted to transform the area cropped to cereals to other added value crops like fruit trees, like olives, like almond, like other fruit trees. And this is, I would say, mention really strong the United States-Morocco cooperation and help from the people of the United States to Morocco through the MCC project, the Millennium Challenge Cooperation Project, that was completely in this mind of developing, the crop trees. The third category is the intensification project. This is targeting, farms where we had ongoing, farming systems, how to improve them, how to get the right technology and the adapted technology to those small farmers. So, and with this, of course, we had to partnership with to partner and develop partnership with different social investors from the national investors and national donors, but also from the international donors, as I said, like from the MCC and other international donors. So in terms of implementation and outcome, quickly, I would say in 6 years, that means up to 2004, where we had precise statistics. I would just give some illustration about the successes. In terms of increasing the area, extending the area of the production, we increased about 11%. This was not an objective, but it was a side result, which is very important. That means there was a land that was not sufficiently used for agriculture. In terms of production, when you put together everything, all crops, we increased the production by 45%. And this is due to the increase in the yield. As you see here, I give just some examples for cereals. We had an increase of 56% of the increase in yield. Olives, 33%, almonds, 48%, and oranges, 6% of the increase. So this is the improvement of the yield on 81% of the agricultural area. That means those targeted area by this project. And the outcome of this, or the impact of this, is the increase in GDP, in the agricultural GDP, the part of the agricultural in GDP, which was about 38% up to 2014. And I will see what's the figure, because our strategy was developed up to the horizon 2020. And we had the objective to 2020, so we achieved already 38%. And this, what was behind, was this, what I said, this investment and this partnership, public-private, where we, as you see, the public investment increased by 90% between 2008 and 2014. And this generated a private investment of plus 117%. The idea in this mobilization of the private is that 1 dirham, 1 unit, the Moroccan money should generate 3 dirhams when I talk about the public money, I am talking about the incentives, I am talking about the subsidies. So when we put 1 dirham, it should generate 3 dirhams through these projects in the private investments. Quickly, this is just to say for Pillar 1, in terms of investment, one of the factors of the investment, it's not only subsidies, it's the land. There are private investors, but from the national and international also producers, but they need land. Where do they have to produce? So we had to mobilize land. And the objective is to mobilize around 30,000 hectares per year of land that was either under state-owned, or communities-owned, or regions-owned. And this was the issue I talked about in terms of the land status. So that land was not producing enough and sufficiently. So we had to mobilize it and give it through this public-private partnership to the private in order to produce adequately. Aggregation, and this is a very important point, because the problem is that when you have small farms, how you are going to deal with them. For any action, now when you talk about the extension, how are you going to, cover all these people. It's difficult if they are not organized. So we had to organize them. One of the handles we used to organize them is this aggregation, is that around the big factories or processing factories, we would aggregate small farmers to get them around this aggregator, what we call aggregator. So the aggregator, in terms, there is a contract between three-party contract between the aggregator and the aggregator and the aggregated farmers and the state. So the aggregator would in terms of responsibility, transfer the technology and advise the small farmers. And also he can provide some inputs in the beginning as advance. The second, in return, he will get a feedback from the small farmers in terms of production for his factory. So this is, the economy of scale. And on the other side, the aggregator, he has the access. He's really his own channel in terms of supplies of inputs, the economy, capacity of negotiation with the market, with the commercialization, distribution, infrastructure, etc. So the state, the public subsidies would come here just to support, the aggregator and to motivate him to go into this process. And this, of course, allowed us to develop the investment and to have newcomers in agriculture in terms of investors. And with our product having more added value, increase of yield and revenue for the farmers. And this aggregation really reconciles small farmers with the market economy. And you can find, some small scale, productions in international market. This is very important, system, because before it was difficult for these small productions, to get it to the international market. Like I can give you an example. This organ oil, it was produced for many years, by the small, but it never, reached international market. But today, with this kind, of strategies, they are accessing all the viable potential markets. Pillar 2, again, in terms of achievements and the results. Just to give you some figures, we launched in terms of target, we had 545 projects for a global investment of $2 billion. In terms of achievement up to 2014, you have in blue the achievements, what we achieved. For instance, if you take the number of, in terms of indicators, number of projects, we we implemented 90% of the project. Out of the 545, we had 492. In terms of investment, we achieved 67%. In terms of number of beneficiaries, we covered 750,000 farmers. We have in total 1,500,000 farmers in Morocco. And in terms of area, we had 53%. And as you see here, we have different crops that were concerned principally. So in terms of reforms, let me just say a couple of words about water, for instance. Water, we have a really strong national program for the water economy, what we call the water economy program. And the idea is to really change and convert the existing irrigation system to a more economical system. The water use saving techniques like drip irrigation. So the objective is to achieve by 2020 550,000 hectares covered by this technique. We started in 2008 from 160,000, and we achieved already 4,000 hectares so far. So from here to 2020, we have 150,000 to do. In terms of land, you see what we mobilized as a land for the investors, 30,000 hectares average per year, and we are so far at 135,000 hectares mobilized that was not really producing enough. And today, it's a really very important platform for production. Doing business, with a lot of reforms. We have today, an agency that is really I would say, the main organ that is following the investors and looking after their businesses. The interprofession, the organization, the way we are looking at the production is not only upstream and producing, as agricultural product. We are looking at the product through the consumer. That means we trace the product. And the idea is to, some of the added value has to be returned to the farmers and to small farmers. But if we don't trace the whole chain, it's difficult to do that. So the objective is to, first of all, to look at to integrate the upstream and downstream of each value chain. Secondly, is to follow the price, because we know the price at the farm, we know the price that the consumers pay, but in between it's like a black box. It's important if we want to regulate to know what's going on. So we have to look at each segment. So the organization, so we had to organize. That means we have farmers that are organized, at upstream. We have in the middle of the chain the organizations and the factories for the processing, and we have the distribution and all the logistic, professionals. The idea was to put all these people together and to have one representative per sector, per value chain, in order to be recognized and be, the partner with the state and recognized officially. So we did this, and we have today 19 value chain that are organized under this scheme. And then, as I said, we had to rethink the production through the consumer. And this is very important because if you look at the quality, for instance, of a product, how can you improve the quality at the factory when you at the processing level only, if you forget where does it come from? Because, the producer, the farms, when he produces the product, he already controlled maybe 50% or more of the quality of the product. So if the processing factories do not care of the product and the production conditions, they are not going to be able to control, the quality that producing for the consumer. So this is really, really important to have this scheme, and it was not easy, but we succeeded to have them, and we passed law for them to be a really strong organization. In the same line with the value chain, how we can strengthen the value chain. The value chain, agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture, or agriculture in general, it has been focusing a lot, on the upstream. But as I said, if we want really to follow the process, we need to look at what's going on in the middle. In order, we get the people organized, as I said, but we needed to intervene, to give them something and to push them and to help them, and also to attract investors for the processing and for the agricultural transformation. So what we did is develop platforms that would attract what we call agropolises, that would attract investors to the regions, not only to the big cities like Casablanca and Rabat, but we wanted them to go to the production areas where they would transform the product there, and where the value added will stay in the region. So the objective was to increase the food processing capacity and value added, and provide competitive investment frame to investors via access to land with competitive prices within these platforms. Provide services. We have research institutions like INRA. We have the control agency for the export that are there also. We have other services that are there in each agropole. So we have a program of 6 agropoles, as you see here on this map, over the country. 3 of them are being marketed, and 2 of them are being One of them is being under construction, Agadir, and 2 of them are under study. And it started in 2009, and we hope to finish them before 2020. Other reforms concern the market, the local market. It's important for national market to be organized. And we had to implement a framework to upgrade different, what we call the wholesale market, to improve the conditions of commercialization and agricultural product. So the farmers, the producer has to have some control on the marketing of his product. For the export, we work a lot to explore international markets and to put in practice the free trade agreement that we signed. And so we had some progress in that, and we have some negotiation going on with other countries like Canada and Saudi Arabia and so on. In terms of financial aspect, I talked about them in terms of investment. And finally, in terms of GDP, which is the last outcome, some of the figures in terms of what different crops had as input on the GDP. And you have the last graph in the bottom, where you see that we increased so far from 2008 to 2014 the GDP, the agricultural GDP, by 41% up to now. And then what we need is to go up to 2%. We want to double it. This was the objective of 2008. Okay, well, what's next? If from here to 2020, as you see, we had achieved many objectives. We overpassed the objectives so far. And what is remaining from now to 2020, we need about $12.5 billion of investment to guarantee to achieve the whole objectives from now to 2020. And I would say, the financing is not scaring us, because we have experience, and we have more confidence because we have some large investors, some large international ventures with national partners, and so we are on this way. I just would like to conclude. I'm just giving these examples to tell you these strategies are a room for a lot of training, for a lot of capacity building in terms of technology, innovation, and in terms of technology transfer. And this is where it's important for our 2 countries, for us and the University of Minnesota especially. And I'd like to thank our ambassador for putting the University of Minnesota at the top of the U.S. universities in terms of agriculture, which is true. And we hope that the past will help us concentrating on some of the areas that are really priorities. And as I said, we have colleagues that are in other areas like agrotourism. I didn't talk about the agrotourism, but it's very important in the south of Morocco, in the oasis, in the date palm areas and things like that. But it offers, really an important, opportunities for working on concrete problems that would be of interest between our 2 countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Siddiqui. Could you all join me in thanking our wonderful panelists? It's obvious these are very big topics that we have a lot to learn about. Thank you for your expertise. Thank you for being here. I know I promised the group and those online that there would be time for questions. Clearly, we did not allow enough time for our experts to share with us everything they know, but there are many public events coming up where you can find all of these guys. So let me just mention, there is all day today in the University of Minnesota bookstore on the East Bank and in the University of Minnesota bookstore in St. Paul. They're having a sale on Moroccan literature and also books by authors who are here with us today. We have tomorrow, the Minnesota International Center is hosting a very important lunch downtown Minneapolis, and there will be a presentation by the ambassador. I don't know if tickets are still available because they were very popular, but you could go through the Minnesota International Center website. Tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock in the St. Paul Student Center, there will be an award and a reception honoring Dr. Mohammed Siddiqui. There will be a reception tomorrow evening by the University Arab Language and Culture Club. And on Thursday in the evening, there is an opening reception to a photograph exhibit. The pictures were shot by a Moroccan Humphrey Fellow who was with us last year at the Humphrey Institute. And that will be held at the St. Paul Student Center as well. Almost all of the members of the delegation will be at these various events. I know I came up with a lot of questions during the presentation, so if you did as well, please join us at any of those events, and I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you. So thanks again for coming. Thank you so much for making the trip to Minnesota.